All right, Kevin Smith.
Yes.
Welcome.
Take two.
Take two.
Tell them about the last time we did this.
Let's do this real quick. So when I had just launched my podcast.
Right. You moved out here. You had only done, it was somebody famous you started with.
One episode.
Who was it?
Josh Brolin.
Yeah, it was like, I was like, oh my God, he got fucking Thanos.
Yeah.
Like, good for him. So you were like, do you want to do it? And I was like, I'll fucking follow Thanos. So, he was like, we could go to a place and record. I said, oh my God, come over to my place. I said, I got the cameras and the mics. We could just record there. So Kev comes over and we record 3-4 hour podcast.
Yeah, it was like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And it had absolutely no
There was no
direction.
shape or context to it whatsoever.
It was just random.
It was really just two dudes smoking weed.
Yeah.
In what was essentially the classic old podcast format.
Yeah.
Two dudes smoking weed talking to each other.
Yeah.
What happened to that podcast? You were like, I can't do anything with
So we'll just tell the audience here. So there's an entire bit, and it's like deleted scenes essentially. So I showed up to this podcast. I showed up to Kevin's house. I need to give some complete context here. I've told you this before.
Yeah.
I grew up on your movies.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So my posters in my rooms were like Mallrats, Pulp Fiction, and Reservoir Dogs.
This
So
may
like Tarantino and Kevin Smith were
new news for those watching this. But Kevin was incredibly instrumental. In fact, the only person who got Ben Affleck into Jane Silent Bob Reboot. Like, that's how deep Kev goes. He's a fan. So him coming over to my house, I mean, I don't just invite people over to my house, but I was like, oh my God, come over to my house, man. You fucking made my movies better.
But to be able to go to your house, like I think back to that kid who found the Mallrats soundtrack at Blockbuster Video and was like, oh, I love Silverchair. I'm gonna find out what this Mallrats movie is. And my journey began with your films. Like, you've been a part of my life as a filmmaker for over 30 years.
Means the world, man. Thank you for that.
And so to be invited to your house, which I've been before, I went there to watch.
You watched movies at my house.
Yeah.
You saw what? Reboot and Clerks 3 at the house.
That's correct.
And then after Clerks 3, I fucking chauffeured you and the two
Jake and Sean
from, what was the podcast called?
It was called Real Blend.
Real Blend, over to Quentin's house.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we're going to Quentin's house next. And I was like, oh, I know where that is.
Yeah.
You want to ride? And they were like, you serious? They were adorable. Like, we get to the house and they're like, you want to come in? I was like, I think that would really fuck him up. If suddenly you guys walked in and then I was with you and they'd be like,
Yeah.
wait, what? And it was like, he dropped us off. And so I was like, it's cool to leave you here.
Do you ever have moments in life where you stop and go, look what I'm doing right now? And the reason I ask that is because you have to understand, again, just setting this up for the audience, Kevin and Tarantino are like two of my favorite filmmakers of all time. We're at Kevin's house watching Clerks III. I had my old podcast, Real Blend, and I'm trying to call an Uber, can't get the Wi-Fi to work. He's like, oh, I'll take you. And I'll never forget this. I sat in the front seat, and Jake and Sean sat in the back. And I remember looking at you and going, oh my God, Kevin Smith is driving me right now to another filmmaker's house.
The one guy whose poster I had in my room is ferrying me to the house of the other guy whose poster I had in my room.
It was insane. And so all of that to be said, regardless of us knowing each other years prior, going to your house to record a podcast, I was nervous because it was like one of those things where, like, I've known you for a while,
Right.
but I also wasn't sure what my show was yet.
Yeah, you were still figuring shit out.
Yeah, and for people out there listening, like this happened back in about August of 2025.
Yeah.
The Brolin episode only happened because Brolin made it happen, and so the show actually launched sooner than it was supposed to.
Right,
I didn't have a name, I didn't have a structure. So once Brolin got booked, I was like, all right, I need a logo, I need a name. I rushed it all, and then I did that episode. I was like, okay, all right, I still don't know what my show exactly is, but I guess I'll go to Kevin's house if he's inviting me, and I will try out again. And that conversation, it's just 2.5 hours of random anecdotes.
It literally is a podcast from the earliest days of podcasting, circa like 2007.
What's crazy about that, the full circle, that house used to be owned by Ben Affleck.
Affleck.
And
It was Ben's house, yeah.
And
we still refer to show you the incredible enduring power of celebrity. Ben lived in that house for 8 months back in like 2001.
Wow.
I've lived in that house since 2002, raised my kid there. A family has lived in that house for the past 23, 24 years. and we still refer to it as Ben Affleck's house.
It's so beautiful too, because like the history when you walk through it, it's like old school, but like really beautiful and
yet
like
it's
large.
not. Like I remember when I first got in, I was like, oh, when did they build this shit? In the 40s? They're like, no, in the 80s. Terrence Trent D'Arby was the first owner. And I was like, are you shitting me? Because I bought Wishing Well, or The Hard Line, according to Terrence Trent D'Arby, record, CD, and cassette. So that means a tiny piece of that house I pre-bought long before I even bought it. You know what I'm saying? Because I put some money in his pocket. But it was his house, and then it went to somebody else, and then it was Ben's house for like literally less than a year.
And then you lived there while he owned it, but he wasn't living there?
He went and bought Drew Barrymore's old house because he wanted a driveway, because the house that I live in, which was his house, sits right on the street.
Yeah.
So you could just walk up to it from the fucking street. People do. The other day, I went to pick up, we had some Amazon dropped off and shit. I went to get the package and opened the door, and somebody had stuck, like in Clerks, when Jay and Silent Bob put the I eat cock word balloon on the door, somebody had literally stuck that to the door and stuff. So you can come like right up to my house, which for me is not a problem. For somebody like him, I guess it was problematic. So he wanted a house with a long driveway, so he vamoosed, and his house was open, and he had known my wife really liked the house and shit. And so he was like, I called him to say, I'm coming back to Los Angeles, man. We're going to snowbird it. I'm going to stay at that house that we rented in Toluca Lake when we were making Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And I'm going to ride Jersey Go, and I can feed you pages every day and stuff. And he was like, don't rent that house, rent my house. I was like, you live in your house? He goes, no, I bought Drew Barrymore's house. So I said, all right. And I said, your house is way big though, way bigger than the house that I'm going to rent. He goes, how much is that house in the Valley? And it was $5,000 a month to rent. And he goes, I'll charge you $5,000 a month for my house. And that was ridiculous because it was worth way more and stuff. But then he made me an even better deal. He was like, I said, why would you do that? He goes, because you're going to buy the house. I was like, I am? He goes, oh yeah, your wife wants the house, dude. Happy wife, happy life. So I'm going to let you rent the house for as long as you want. And then when you're ready to buy the house, I'm going to charge you exactly what I was charged for it, even though I put $1 million into the house.
Wow.
He's going, and then whatever you paid in rent, I'm going to take off the top of the purchase price. So it was an incredibly sweet deal. I live in a house far above what like my box office dictated I should have lived in and stuff, thanks to his largesse.
Yeah.
So, it's fair enough. I did fucking get Good Will Hunting made. So, balance.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It worked out.
Yeah, he produced Good Will Hunting. And I want to give some context to this, because when I was first starting off in my career, and you know this, I would, anytime I'd interview somebody from one of your films, I would bring up your films.
That's the only reason Ben wound up in Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, because you were interviewing him for that Netflix movie. What was
Frontier.
it? Triple Frontier. And we were already in production, and, Kevin said to Ben, he was just like, hey man, Kevin Smith is making Jay and Silent Bob Reboot now. Have you heard from him? And then Ben was like, no, nobody's called me, and I'm not busy or whatever the fuck.
And you hadn't spoken in like 8 years.
Yeah, close to like 10 years. And so everyone on set that day was like, did you see this interview? Like, he was like, you should call him. That's definitely a message. I was like, no, that's just some nice shit to say while you're doing fucking press. But then I guess it was Jordan, Jason's wife.
Yeah. Jordan
Monsanto runs our company. She was just like, why don't you just reach out to him and see like if he's feeling it. Like, it doesn't have to be a big deal. So I texted him for the first time in a long time, and he responded and was like so warm and wonderful, and it led to me writing what for me is the scene that makes Jay and Silent Bob Reboot worth watching.
Yeah. It's like an amazing monologue for people who haven't seen it.
He has a fucking incredible monologue that he knocked out of the park, which he loved, because he was like, this is everything I want to say as a parent right now. And it made the movie better. Like, and it's so crazy. Whenever I show the movie, and we just showed it because the anniversary is this year. What are we on?
2026, so that was 2019.
So this year is Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back's 25th anniversary, Clerks II's 10th anniversary, or 20th anniversary, Red State's 15th anniversary, Tusk's 10th. So Reboot doesn't have an anniversary yet, but it's coming.
Wow.
So Reboot, we did a screening fairly recently back at Smodcastle Cinemas at my movie theater in New Jersey. And while we were watching it, I was like, oh my God. Oh, no, it was on the cruise. We showed it on the cruise when we did the Jay and Silent Bob's Cruises Q back in February. So I introed and then did a Q&A for Reboot. And it's unfathomable that we went into battle, like, to make that movie without that scene. Yeah. Like, because that is the scene that's the fulcrum upon which the lever of the entire movie rests. And it only exists because you historically have always fucking asked somebody who's been in you remind these motherfuckers who were once in a Kevin Smith movie, hey, you were once in a Kevin Smith movie and he's not dead yet. And they're like, oh shit. And you always hit them with something that they like, right? Yeah. Like when you talk about Good Will Hunting 2 with Ben or Matt, they're like, oh, that was funny.
I mean, applesauce is something I've been saying in my interview.
Applesauce, bitch.
The first time I ever interviewed Affleck, it was Gone Baby Gone. I was in DC. I was just starting
Mr. Director, his first directing effort.
I think it's
technically not his first directing effort, his first feature directing effort. Years ago, he had directed a short film, I think even before I made Clerks. Wow. And it was called I Killed My Lesbian Lover, Hung Her on a Meat Hook, and Now I Have a 3-Picture Deal at Disney.
That's the name of the film?
That's literally the name of the film.
Does it exist?
Yeah, you can find it on the internet.
Oh, I'm looking that up right now.
That was the first thing Ben ever directed, short film.
But so Ben's like, so that actually is a perfect way to set this up then. So Ben's like made this really serious like drama about a child that goes missing. It's one of the greatest endings I've ever seen, or like morally, where you go, what would you have done in that situation? And so he's showing up to DC. We're in Georgetown. There's a big red carpet ready for him at this AMC Georgetown. All these reporters, and then he comes up to me. One, my microphone's not working. It's not even plugged into the phone or something. So I'm holding up a mic that I thought was plugged in, but it's not. So all the audio is being recorded on a phone, and it sounds terrible.
Oh, man.
And he comes up to me, and I think the first thing I said to him was, it's Shannon from The Fashionable Male, which is his character from Mallrats. Yeah. And he lit up. Because I don't know, and he goes, you're a big Kevin Smith fan. I'm like, yeah, man, blah, 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 blah.
There's safety there. There's security there.
But it wasn't for that. It was just a genuine, fan.
But their reaction, there's safety and security. In that moment, when you're doing press, you're there with an agenda to sell whatever movie you're working on and stuff. There are a zillion instructions they feed you about what you can and can't say and whatnot. And when you're those guys, you've got to listen. You know, when you're me, you don't have to do whatever you want. But like when you're working for a Disney or a fucking 20th Century Fox, which is Disney, or Universal, you have to mind your P's and Q's. Hundreds of $1 million riding on the line. So everyone's tense, even though there's the illusion of, hey, we're going to be interviewed on the red carpet and fucking this is off the cuff. Underneath, man, do I look right? Fucking, how am I holding myself? Does this camera catch me? Fucking, how long am I going to be here? I got to go over there. But there's a zillion things, a lot of calculus going on at once. When you enter the fray and say something unexpected that gives them like a dopamine rush of, oh yeah, because I'm not omnipresent in anyone's fucking mind but my own, right? Like, you got to remember, most of the actors I work with, like as many movies as I'll make with them, with the exception of Jason Mewes, very rarely do they not do other movies.
I mean, this guy's directed Alan Rickman. You have
Which
to,
guy?
like, you.
Oh, well.
That's what I'm saying. You.
But,
and I'm
saying
some of the greatest actors ever.
Totally. But they've also gone on to make some of the greatest movies of other people.
Right.
So you are just one link in the chain for them. Like in my world, all those movies are, fucking loom large. Clerks, Mallrats. Of course, they're the fucking the Parthenon of whatever it is I've been doing for the last 30 plus fucking years. But to Ben, to Matt, to Alan back in the day, to like everybody with the exception, I would say, of Jason Mewes, they are just some of the movies that they did. Generally speaking, for those cats, it is from an era that gives them warmth to think about. The before times.
The 90s.
Not that they don't like what happened and what they become, but as an artist, you appreciate your journey more than anybody else because you know what an idiot you are. You know how fucking like stupid you are, and what are the chances that you wind up in this amazing catbird seat where you got the world thinking like not only you're good at one job, but you're good at a couple others, like Ben and Matt. So I think the way I've seen it, the science behind your dropping Kevin Smith comments in interviews with people I've worked with, how it unfolds, is in that moment, everything falls away that they're holding on to. The asshole unclenches, and they feel safe. They feel safe because they're like, oh, he knows Kev.
Yeah.
And whether you know Kev or whether you know Kev's body of work, they're like, all right, I'm not, like, this motherfucker's not going to put me through the ringer. This motherfucker's not going to hit me with gotcha shit. This might actually be a good time because I don't have to talk about, whatever it is I'm working on for the gazillionth fucking time today. For 2 minutes, I could go down a rabbit hole and say something I haven't said in fucking years, and it'll be fun for me and different. And difference when you're doing a junket or when you're promoting a movie, the slightest differences will fucking put a spring in your step because no matter how many people ask you questions, it's generally the same question. They're generally going to get the same answer. So when you come at them with like, hey, Kevin Smith, they're like, fucking Kev Smith. You know what happened this one time? And then they get relaxed. So it's beautiful. It's great for me because I always love to watch these clips and see.
Well, it shows that they loved working with you.
They did, but it also shows to me, this motherfucker hasn't thought about me in a decade. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I see on their face. Like, he's still alive? Like, didn't he have a heart attack? Oh my God, I love Kevin. So that moment with Ben, wasn't quite that. I knew he knew I wasn't dead and shit. But it definitely paved the way for me to open the door or try to open the door. And as receptive as he was, the movie got better. So I love that you do it. Not only does it feed my ego, of course, like where I'm like, yeah, man, fucking talk about Kevin Smith when they're there to talk about anything else. Make them talk about Kevin Smith. But it's also lovely to watch it play out on the faces of the person you're talking to.
Dude, Matt Damon laughs every time I say applesauce.
And I see every time. It's genuine, too, where they're just like, oh, fucking yeah, man. Like, we did that. Like, and because you got to remember, like, if you hit a motherfucker with a Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back quote, it's quarter century old today.
It's like somebody shit in your cereal. That's what I said to Ben Affleck on that carpet.
Did you?
It looks like somebody shit in your cereal.
And that's a double hit for him because that's like what Jay says in Chasing Amy is what he says back to Jay and Jay and Silent Bob Strike
I was geeking out, man. I'm like, why am I
That's
quoting
cool.
him?
If I was you, and I got to be you a few times over the course of my fucking long career where, I get to interview folks and whatnot. For IMDb, I did that for like 5 years at Sundance and at Comic-Con and stuff. So when I say this, I can say it with not like, oh, if only. If I was in your seat, I would do it that way. For me, like especially when I was interviewing people at Sundance, like you're talking to people whose movies are just playing for the first time. You haven't seen them. The whole fucking world hasn't seen them. Only about 150, 200 people in Sundance have seen them at Park City or now, wherever they're going to go next. Colorado, I believe it is, Boulder. So you can't sit there and wax rhapsodic about the movie they just made. What are you going to do? You got to talk about the past. The present you don't have the details for, but fuck. Past is crystal clear, particularly if you're talking to somebody whose shit you love. So like when I was interviewing folks at the IMDb, like at Sundance one year, it always led to like some of my favorite exchanges where I didn't become friends with these people and shit. Like you and I are friends.
Yeah.
We met doing this, but like we have a friendship and you like brought something to my fucking table that was meaningful to me. You'll always have a seat at that fucking table.
Which by the way, and he's being serious.
No, absolutely.
Like really quick to back up. So after Kevin gets off the phone with Ben and they reunite after 8 years or 10 years, you write the scene that he ends up doing the monologue at the end of the film. The story is actually even crazier because he flew to your set in New Orleans on the last day. Didn't he use Snoop Dogg's plane?
There was there's all that. So we had put aside money. There was a group, what were they called?
Like a private flight or something?
They're in the movie. We're the Kush Boys.
Yes.
So the Kush Boys, which is a real weed brand, gave us money because there was a chance that Snoop Dogg was going to come and cameo in the movie.
Yeah.
And he's like private jet only or something. So they'd put aside $20,000 to get him out there. And then, as is often the case with we travelers of the green, details slipped away and that suddenly wasn't happening anymore. So when I reached out to Ben, he was like, "Where are you shooting?" And I was like, "New Orleans." And he was like, "Oof." He goes, "All right, I can come out, but can you put me on a private jet? I can't fly commercial." And I was like, "No, like on any other day, I'd be like, fucking absolutely not. I ain't got private jet money, but we do. Like today, we have private jet money." So we got him out there on a private jet, and it was the last day of the show. It was a great way to close the production. You know, just so sweet. He came out. He fucking did that monologue twice. Most of the scene is cut from the first take. So, you know, again, without you asking him that question, none of that happens. And then, yeah,
well, you wrote it.
Spoken ever since.
No,
yeah, but I
just
don't write
connected
it
the dots,
unless
you know what I'm
you're
saying?
like, hey, your buddy's making a movie, and that gives him the opportunity to be like, oh, my fucking buddy who I haven't heard from in a while, and then fucking he heard from me, and the rest is history.
Something I never asked you, the day that he shot that,
Yes.
after you were done, did he fly back immediately, or
Yeah.
did you guys get to hang out a little
He got right back on the plane.
Did you have a moment with him of like, dude,
I saw him
thank
before
you?
we started. Oh my god, yeah.
is
Before
the first time.
before we even went to set, like I went to the trailers and I saw Joey first because like, after I spoke to Ben, I reached out to Joey to be like, "You're never gonna believe this shit." I was like, "How would you like to come out and play Alyssa?" And she was like, I was waiting for my call because she too was like, you know, I heard you were making the movie and shit. And I was like, well, I was like, you weren't gonna get a call. I said, but we have an opportunity here, and we could sequelize Chasing Amy in this scene, you know, as a short film and whatnot. So mercifully, she came out and joined us as well. So I saw her first that morning, and then went over to his trailer and like walked in, and he was knocking on the door, and he was like, "Open the door, Smittacles," and you know, he's a giant fucking man.
He's a big dude,
huge.
Yeah,
and just like there's a reason. There's a reason. Years ago, when I started like hanging out with him post Mallrats, that I was like, "You should be a fucking movie star, dude. Like you're funny, you're fucking like smart and charming and fucking witty and stuff.
Yeah,
and you're fucking tall. Like you got that movie star presence and shit." And he certainly does. So when I came through the trailer door, man, it's Smittacles. He just fucking enveloped me in his gigantic, strong fucking arms and shit.
It's your first time seeing him in like 8 years.
Yeah, yeah. And it was really quite nice. And so then we went and shot, and he absolutely killed it. And I've been talking to him like ever since. He came back for Clerks III as well.
The funny thing is, I was just doing a press junket earlier this year for The Rip. And it happened.
You went with
it
them
happened again.
Yeah.
We did an entire Good Will Hunting 2 thing. I brought Kevin up again. It's almost become like a thing I just have to do now because it's
comfort zone too. Because they'll easily remember that.
Yeah.
And you be like, oh, this is fucking Kevin. He talks about the other Kev.
And Matt Damon's about to lead probably the biggest movie of all time this summer in The Odyssey.
In The Odyssey.
I mean, you like.
Why? What do you know?
No, I just have a feeling.
Why would that be bigger than Oppenheimer?
Oh, because Oppenheimer was $1 billion, R-rated, 3 hour.
Man.
I think Odyssey does $2 billion.
Why?
It'll probably be PG-13. I'm not entirely sure. It's more accessible because I feel like Oppenheimer's a 3 hour R-rated biopic.
Look, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I was always shocked that Oppenheimer made $1 billion.
Well, Barbie probably helped too because of the Barbenheimer thing. But
Barbenheimer,
Nolan,
nobody taking that away. But come on, like,
oh yeah,
that it was fucking astounding. It's almost a magic trick that you get that many people to care about Fat Man and Little Boy again.
it's one of the greatest.
You know
movies.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not taking anything away. It made a brilliant, beautiful movie,
Yeah.
but it's like that's a story everybody fucking knows, and still it made $1 billion. So I don't even know why I'm sitting here going like, what do you know? You're right. Chris Nolan, once again, telling a story that everybody fucking knows, probably is going to make a fucking $1 billion.
And he's gonna do it probably.
He's got any fucking Cyclops in it?
Oh yeah. Oh, and he shot the entire
$2 billion.
Shot the entire thing. Shot IMAX, the whole film. So this
I know
is
that
actually,
matters to some people. I know as a filmmaker, I should be like, and it matters to me, but
it's the first time in history that they're doing it this way.
shooting a whole movie in IMAX?
Well, IMAX film, so 65 mil IMAX. So it's like the entire film's going to be 1:43 at City Walk. It won't switch back like Dark Knight and Interstellar.
Everything, top to bottom.
Entire thing. It's going to be insane. And I bring that up because Matt
This is
Damon.
the film school kids, man.
Well, I love that
Chris
stuff.
Nolan going like, let's shoot the whole thing like this, and PTA going like, let's shoot the whole thing with a dead format.
VistaVision.
it's
Do you think? I was trying to tell someone this the other day. I think filmmakers now.
No.
And you were one of these filmmakers too, and are one of these filmmakers where the
Formerly
filmmaker
good.
is the star of the movie. And what I mean by that is,
auteur.
yeah. So for example, like,
They spit that word out a lot in the beginning of my career.
but people are
Auteur.
going to
Auteur.
see Oppenheimer. like RDJ's in it, Damon, huge cast.
Yeah.
But it's a Nolan movie.
Yeah, he's
when they
brand
go to
name.
a Kevin Smith movie, they go to a Tarantino movie, a Scorsese
Brand
film.
names, yeah.
There's power to that idea of like of a director being the star.
I don't know about power, but it's rare breathing. Like through most of my life growing up, watching movies and shit, the director was more or less anonymous. Most people knew the name of Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or Martin Scorsese, but most people couldn't go deep cuts on films and tell you who the directors were and stuff.
Like Ryan Coogler
Miramax made the director as a star, or it remade the director as star, because you didn't have expensive or well-known actors in these movies to put out there, but you could throw the filmmaker out there, and the filmmaker could, who's going to tub thump for their work better than them? Who's more passionate about what they've done than them? You can have an actor out there going like, it was great making the movie, or you can have the filmmaker out there talking about like what it took to get there, and that story started capturing imaginations at that time because it wasn't a story you'd heard a zillion fucking times before. So the director in the 90s kind of ascended and moved to marketable status. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they've always had that a film by, not always, but that a film by and then one person's name credit has been around like cancer forever.
But I'm showing up to a theater to see a new John Woo movie because I like Face Off. Yeah. And I want to see what John Woo's going to do next.
Because like everything in life, shit becomes tribal and people coalesce around ideas that they enjoy and the people who put those forward. So, hey man, I like what this Quentin guy does, man. I'm gonna go see his next one. And if you see two and they're fucking like meeting your standard, oh, that's my guy.
Yeah.
And then you're playing that motherfucker like an avatar. One of the highest compliments I ever got in my career was somebody early on, within the first 10 years, was like, I like what you're doing, man. If I was you, it's exactly how I'd be doing it. And you realize that there are a bunch of people who are never gonna like fucking try to do what you did and stuff, but do harbor or foster some kind of like, that'd be cool. And to have somebody be like, if I did what you did, I'd be doing my life exactly as you're doing it, was insane fucking validation from an absolute fucking stranger. And then you realize you play a role in their lives beyond just like, hey, I make those movies. They're rooting for you. You're their guy. Same way like fucking people who love athletes and sports teams, like, hey man, they're my guy. They're my team and shit. Same thing. Everything becomes tribal sooner or later.
But you broke
enough
through.
Fans.
Kevin Smith broke through. Like you became
the
brand.
I had Miramax behind me. The only thing that I brought to the table was a willingness to do me, to be masturbatory. A lot of artists enter this game and they want to please you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where's your clit? Where's your dick? I get it. You should do that. That's what the audience is there for, to be pleased. But I came into it, fuck pleasing you. I'm here to please me because I never made a movie before. And for all I knew, this is the only movie I was ever going to make. So at that point in my career, it was so beautiful. And it's something that you lose over time, unfortunately. I wasn't working for anybody but me. I don't give a fuck about you or whoever was going to see this. I hope there was an audience, but I'm like, nah, man, this is going to be exactly what I want it to be because I'm putting my own money into it, which wasn't my money. It was credit card money. And shit,
$25,575.
$27,575.
$27,575.
But like, I'm going to make this exactly as I want to make it. And so as an outsider artist who just kind of stuck to their guns, not because I'm principled, but because I don't know any other way to do it. And since I'm paying for it, this is me. This is all me. Everything up there is fucking from my head and heart and shit. It sticks with people who see it. Like, oh, like, well, this is different because it reeks of individuality. Man, if you could keep that, and I've been able to hold on to a lot of the individuality, but like over time, I've had to start working for the audience as well as myself. You can't just jerk off your entire life. Sooner or later, you have to please somebody else. And so, I'm not saying that's horrible, but there was a purity. That's why people like artists when they first break, because there's a purity to what they're doing that will be lost, and not necessarily lost to the same old, bugaboos like selling out, which fucking everybody, that's the aim. Like nobody wants to give away their art for fucking free. You can do that in a vacuum. Like everybody wants to like sell out, and of course they bastardize it and shit like that. But that seems to be the goal. But shy of that, man, like if you're if you're just doing it for you, if I was just doing it for me for the rest of my life, we wouldn't have this discussion. I wouldn't even have to show anybody. I'd make the movies, show my friends and family, and that'd be it. But no, at a certain point, I was like, this is going to be my life. I want to make a living doing this. And so that, not innocence, but that purity, you know, starts to get diluted because your intent is not the same. My intent in the beginning was, I just going to want to make a movie. My intent forevermore now is like, I just want to live. And how I live is off my art. I sell my art. So that's why I want to make a movie. And underneath it all, yeah, sure, I want to make a movie, but I've done it a bunch. So the same yearning fucking, I must do this by hook or by crook that was there for the first movie, it's never going to be there by the fucking 16th film. And it's not to say like, you know, and that's, it's just, it is what it is. It doesn't mean the movies are necessarily worse. In fact, I could probably make you the argument that I think Tusk is a way better film than fucking Clerks, but nobody wants to hear that shit.
I love both.
I think
here,
I'll go even more controversial. I think Clerks 3 is a way better movie than Clerks, and that's where most people are like, I'll fucking kill you for saying that.
Is it weird that I think Clerks 2 is my favorite of the three?
I love Clerks 2 as well. I actually think of the three, Clerks 2 is my favorite.
The ending,
but
man.
I think Clerks 3 is the best. Only because it shows the absolute fucking growth and the sticking to the landing of the kid that started the journey, while still being completely surprising. With Clerks, I could surprise people because nobody had ever seen it before. Clerks 2, tougher to surprise because they've seen it. So one of the first surprises, it's in color. The second surprise is these fuckers got heart and soul. They're not just fucking sarcasm, you know, generating fucking hate tanks. By the time you get to the third one, you're like, how do I fucking surprise them this time? And I was like, oh, I know. You know, and so the movie becomes something else, something more complete than the first one could ever be in the hands of a nascent storyteller. So I love like Clerks 3, but I'm way too close to the game for my opinion to count. Although I'm always discounting my opinion. I do that to make others feel comfortable, lessen myself so that people don't feel intimidated or fucking, you know, jealous or whatever the fuck. People are people and sometimes weird shit comes out of them. So I've always kind of minimized myself, minimized what I do, minimized my fucking talents, and very self-deprecating, like, oh, that's just a Kevin Smith movie and shit like that.
Which always annoys me because I actually genuinely, I mean, I wrote actual questions for you today about your process. And Kevin's like, well, I mean, when I first had you on for the first take of this interview, you were like, how could you have Josh Brolin and then go to me? I'm like, because you're one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. You self-deprecate, but I also believe that you know you've written and made things that are important to
believe
film.
me or not, I know that I've done some stuff and I know I've impacted the culture. And that's
dude, you told
everything.
Me you introduced Stan Lee to me. I didn't know who Stan Lee was because I wasn't a comic book kid. Yeah. I learned who Stan Lee was because of Mallrats. And then when I remember that Jason Lee scene with Stan Lee, that's my Stan Lee introduction. Yeah, I didn't know who he was.
That
when I was a kid.
That's why he's there. Like that's why that scene exists for the dude who like entertained me throughout my childhood, and also I could use him too. It's not altruistic. As I said before, I was like, you brought something to the table, so you'll forever be welcome to the table. Like, it wasn't like, I just want to show the world Stan Lee. He fucking served the plot.
Yeah.
And fuck all that. I was going to get to meet Stan Lee. So I was like, of course I'm writing this fucking scene and putting him in the movie. Man. And in doing so, it was like a way to be like, hey, kids, without this guy, we ain't got fucking comic books and shit like that. And years later, when he was in, I've said it a zillion times, when he was in Captain Marvel.
This is the best full circle I've ever seen in my life.
He was in that scene, and he's like reading, she's looking for a scroll on the train, he's reading the Mallrats script, doing his line from the movie. Oh. And it was almost like the reverse, because by that point, he'd become way more famous than fucking me and shit. And it was almost like Stan Lee, who, you know, is through the people, through Kevin Feige and through the directors of Captain Marvel, of course. But it was almost like Stan Lee going, ladies and gentlemen, here's a guy you probably never heard of, Kevin Smith. You know, and it's almost like he returned the favor. So fucking sweet.
Did you notice a bump in Mallrats when that happened?
Like on home video sales?
Yeah, did you notice any tick up?
I don't have access to that kind of, but to that kind of financial detail, but just being a creature of the internet, yeah, it made a mark. It blipped.
It was like, I actually felt proud and so happy for you.
Same. And there were a bunch of people out there that felt like good for him. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've largely, for most of my career, mostly had folks on my side. That underdog thing that I began with has has stayed with me throughout all of my career. There are moments where you lose them. You know, I lost a bunch on Jersey Girl and shit like that. Lost a bunch on Masters of the Universe. That will always like baffle me to no end and whatnot. But it happened. But generally speaking, folks online have been on my side. I've never more so. Like, I remember when I almost dropped dead from the heart attack, which we just passed the 8-year anniversary. I was terrified to go to the internet the next morning because I thought a bunch of people would be like, oh, fuck, almost forever silent. We missed. God damn it. Like, fucking so close. Piece of shit. Should have died a long time ago, right after Clerks. Wasn't that. It was like I got to read my own obituaries, and people were so fucking lovely. And that lasted right up until Masters of the Universe, and then a bunch of people got mad at me. Some were mad because they were like, you took the Iron Cross off his chest, which, like, that was fucking strange. Some folks got mad at me because they felt like Tila had too much screen time, even though all of those, it was called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and she was in every episode prior to that. And then some people, like, you know, culture war shit, where they're like, you're making She-Man, and you fucking cuck. And then some people, genuinely, like, no political agenda, just like, you broke my childhood.
Jeez.
Like, it made me so sad,
Do you just crawl into like a ball?
Fuck yes. Thank God I was making Clerks 3 at the time. I didn't live on the internet. So because I remember I couldn't wait for Masters of the Universe to drop. I was so fucking proud of it.
Yeah.
Man. And I was like, I can't wait. Like, fucking, they're going to eat this shit up.
You had no...
And there were a bunch of people that loved it, but the loudest fucking, you know, the culture warriors went after it, man. Like, a month later, they found out Superman had a gay son. They fucking forgot us and jumped on his ass and shit. But for that moment, it was honestly, there was a moment where I was like, oh God, don't let this travel into Fox territory. Like, I didn't want to be a subject of like, and this cuck took away He-Man's balls, you know? So mercifully, I buried myself. I think if I wasn't making Clerks, I would have interacted a lot more and probably made things worse, trying to explain it and shit. But I was
You would have done what Jay did in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Oh, you motherfuckers. So instead I just buried into Clerks 3. But it was so fucking heartbreaking. So much so that recently I was approached, and I'll tell you about it afterwards because I can't say it yet. But I was approached to work with some big IP again. And it was a dream fucking job that, like, you know, fucking 8-year-old Kevin Smith, if he was told, hey, you could do this, he'd be like, what? Are you fucking serious? Oh my God, we're the king of the universe and shit. Like, just an opportunity and a half to play with somebody else's toys. And yet there was a moment where I was like, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it because I'm going to do this and I'm going to take a world of shit from a bunch of people on the internet.
That's so sad, though.
I got over it, though, because I was like, you know what? Just don't read it. Like, I've reached the place in my life because, as previously stated, I'm such a creature of the internet, man. I've been here since they fucking started dialing up, plugging in this shit and whatnot, since college campuses, essentially. And so I think I've finally reached a place in my life where I'm all right. Like, I think the internet is for different folks now.
Do you think you're giving in, though, by not taking the gig because you're worried about the backlash?
I took it.
Oh, you did take it?
I did. I fought it for a while, but I wound up taking the gig.
What was the ultimate, like, did you say, fuck it, I'm just going to do it?
Because the young version of myself, if I had went back in time and said, you get offered this and then you don't do it because you're scared of people might say mean things about you, even the infantile 8-year-old fucking version of myself would know that I was fucking stupid as an adult. Like, what happened to us? When did we grow up and become such an idiot? Like, fucking do the thing. Who gives a shit what people say? You fucking nuts. Here, and this would be coming from an 8-year-old. If you don't do this job, somebody else is going to do it, and then you're going to fucking kick rocks the rest of your life going like, why didn't I fucking do it?
Is it like a film or a show?
No, but I'll tell you after.
Okay.
It's
too new.
Yeah, but it did have an impact, that fucking thing. Wow. But I'm going to go back to a story that I started a long time ago because I enjoy it. When I was doing this at IMDb at Sundance, I'm talking, I forget what the fucking movie was, but Bill Pullman is in the movie.
I just saw his son the other night at the Oscars, Lewis Pullman.
I saw him on TV too. Fucking looks like he spit him out and shit.
They're exactly like the same. Yeah.
He's on. I forget which movie it is, but he's one of the people being interviewed. And again, when you haven't seen any of these movies. They're just happening. Some of them haven't even screened yet at Sundance, so I can't really be talking about what they're there for. So instead, I seize upon the past in a very Kevin McCarthy way. I'm talking to people whose work I've long admired. I'm going to fucking fan out. I'm going to hit them with some fucking, like, I'm watching, I see you. So I say to Bill Pullman, I said, Bill, like, I want to ask a question. It's way off topic, but, like, maybe you could walk me through it. It's like, you were in a movie many years ago called Malice. And there is one moment in the movie where you deliver what I would see on the page as an almost undeliverable line. And that line is, I just beat the shit out of a deeply disturbed serial rapist. And you sold that fucking line, man. Like, whose idea was that? He lit up like Christmas.
Probably never had anybody tell him that before.
He goes, and he said something to the effect of, I've been waiting for years to talk about this. He goes, that was the great Aaron Sorkin. I was like, he did write the script. He goes, absolutely. Wow. And I went up to Aaron Sorkin on set the day we were shooting that scene. And I said to him, Aaron, this line, it's a little on the nose, don't you think? How am I supposed to sell this? And he said that Aaron Sorkin said to him, Bill, sometimes in a movie, you have to let the audience know exactly where they are. And I was fucking delighted by his response. Fucking delighted he even remembered the line.
This is why Kevin's so great, and you're a podcaster yourself. He brought back that topic that I wouldn't took us away from, and it was
for all the Malice fans out there.
Yeah, that was a great story though, because like, but here's the thing: you're bringing it up because you legitimately wanted to ask about it.
Yeah.
That's why it's resonating with the person. It's not because you're trying to pull some like B-side track. You're actually bringing up something that affected you. And I remember seeing, I think it was Bradley Cooper went on James Lipton's Inside the Actor's Studio, and he started talking to De Niro about like something he did with his hand in Awakenings or something like that. And De Niro lit up because it was these little details
something
that you almost don't think about.
Nobody's asked me about that.
Exactly.
I'm so excited. That was what I brought to that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could fucking totally see that.
I want to talk to you about music.
Yeah.
I was rewatching Clerks last night. This is actually a true story, and this is not BS. So I'm watching the film, and I'm trying to remember. We see an Entenmann's the
Entenmann's cake.
Yeah, the Entenmann's cake. New
Started
singles.
in Jersey, moved out to Staten Island or Long Island for years, and then when the lady bought the company herself because she worked at the company, she brought it back to New Jersey. Yeah. Very New Jersey company.
And it's I used to eat the chocolate donuts from there all the time. So last night I'm on my couch. I went on my Uber Eats and I ordered those donuts.
You found some Entenmann's.
The movie made me want them. Yeah. And it's like classic product placement that actually
I want you to reach out to Entenmann's and be like, look, there's
worked.
A missed opportunity here. The movie's 32 years old, but it still made me buy your fucking donuts.
Did you have an issue with the companies and logos at all back then?
No, and it's weird because like we went to film school like right before we made that movie. And when we were in film school, the Vancouver Film School, you know, they try to instruct you as best they can and shit. And really they're just prepping at that point kids to feed into the production system. Like you start off as PAs in Canadian TV shows and stuff in the early 90s. So one of the things that they taught us was if you're going to show anything, the name brand, you got to write a letter to the company and get their permission, get a release from them, shit like that. And with Clerks, it would have been fucking ridiculous because we were in a store, there were brands everywhere.
Is that fair use?
What happens is if you got them all packed into a store and you ain't focusing on one of them, you're utterly fine.
You do have Entenmann's pretty focused, though.
Well, never mind Entenmann's. The one we really focus on, and you could argue defame in some way, is Pringles.
That's true.
Because motherfucker gets his hand caught in Pringles, fucking can't. Yeah. And for years I sweated Pringles going like, we're coming for you. Pringles got their revenge. 2 years ago, they did a fucking commercial that was just about getting your hand stuck in the fucking... Wow. And they didn't have the,
to ask you for permission.
Not permission, but they didn't. I would have reached out to Brian O'Halloran, from Clerks. I would have reenacted the Clerks scene. I would have, but But I think they were like, look, bro, we didn't say shit when you got a hand stuck in a Pringles can, so you don't get to say shit when we fucking steal your idea for a commercial 30 years later. Wow. And I didn't. I was like,
so it was because they were all bunched. So
yeah. I think that's what they told us.
Be.
The lawyer at Miramax at that point, because I remember we had to get clearances on movies after that, like going forward. Whenever we made a movie, there's a clearance report they do where they read the script, go through every brand, and shout out, like, you'll have to clear this, you'll have to change this, you'll have to make this up, blah, blah, blah. But back then, no, we just shot.
I want to bring up soundtrack because I genuinely think you are one of the best filmmakers who uses music to help introduce tone and character. And I think about the opening of Clerks.
I want to agree with you, but I think you and I see a different Kevin Smith than most others do. But I feel seen when you say that, because I remember reading the liner notes. I think it was The Breakfast Club. John Hughes wrote the liner notes in the soundtrack years ago. And he said, music is never an afterthought with me. And that has always stuck with me because music was always an afterthought with me. I wasn't making Clerks going, ooh, we could put this music in. Especially most of the music wound up in it was given to us in a box from Sony when we had a soundtrack later on. Mallrats, same thing. Universal, Kathy Nelson, who had done like the Pulp Fiction soundtrack and stuff. She was like, here's a bunch of music that's popular, including, you know, a track from Afro Man, Because I Got High. So she was like, pick these songs pick from these songs. From Chasing Amy forward, that's where I started going like, all right, like now I'm going to start picking. And not in a way of like, hey, motherfuckers have told me what to do for too long and shit like that. Kathy did Mallrats, and then years later she did Strike Back.
Strike Back's my favorite soundtrack.
That's where Afro Man was on Strike Back, not Mallrats. But yeah, Kathy Nelson oversaw those two soundtracks. But when I started doing like Chasing Amy, Dogma, going forward, then I started leaning more into like, what's on my iPod? What do I listen to? And then, you know, you start cutting with temp tracks going like, oh, maybe this will work, but knowing that you won't get it. Like in Tusk, I wrote Tusk over the course of like 3 days listening to Tusk, to Fleetwood Mac's Tusk. So in the third act, when like all hell's breaking loose and shit, I used Tusk to cut to, use that track. And going like, we're never going to get it because I know that song's expensive. We had gotten an expensive song from Fleetwood Mac for Jersey Girl, Landslide, so I knew fucking Tusk would be very expensive as well. But then the folks who produced the movie, when they saw the cut, they were like, we got to get Tusk. I said, that's just in there in temp. They're like, well, let's find out how much it'll cost. And we reached out, and it was, you know, the artist, there's two sides, the publisher and the artist can dictate the price, i.e. the artist could be like, it's this much, in a way to be like, fuck off. And
like knowing you would never be able to do it.
And it was more, the figure they quoted was cost more than the actual walrus suit that Justin Long wore in the movie and shit. Wow. But the folks that produced the movie were like, you know what? Fuck it, let's do it. And they fucking paid for it.
What's the most expensive song you've ever had in a film?
It would be that Tusk. I think it was like
even more than Pearl Jam,
grand.
Daughter?
Pearl Jam, if I may give them a shout out. And I mean, I don't know if I should do this because then it'll make a bunch of people be like, give me a song. But we used 2 Pearl Jam songs, man, and we got them crazy cheap. Number one, it's hard to get Pearl Jam songs, apparently, because they got to watch it. Vetters got to vet it, if you will. But both times I was like, hey, can we use these songs? They said yes, and they absolutely fucking made both movies better. Like spellbinding that, you know, people have told me afterwards, like, how'd you fucking get that? They're like, they're as hard as Springsteen and shit. We got a Springsteen song.
Dude, you have an Alice in Chains song in Clerks, the first Clerks.
But that, once again, that came from the group, for the Sony group, going, here's a bunch of music you could use and stuff. And it was all music I liked, but it was not music that ever would have occurred, but that I ever would have brought to the table. They brought it to the table. But having an Alice in Chains song in the movie is fucking dope. Like, especially years later. Like, I wound up having a child enamored of the 90s. You know, that thing that's going around with, Dad, what were you like in the 90s?
Yes.
Like, my kid's been that since the fucking jump, since she came out the chute. So having bona fides like, you know, oh, we got fucking that song on this soundtrack. Oh, we got that. Like, has always done well in my house with the kid. She doesn't see me the way, like, you know, anybody else fucking sees me. She sees me as like, well, that's Dad. And Dad does his stupid dad things. But every once in a while, Dad does something like, or Dad did something before she was born that was like legit and shit like that. And like I remember one day I walked into her room. She was still living home when she was in high school, and she had a Pulp Fiction poster hanging on her wall. And I was like, right on. I was like, that came out the same year as Clerks. She's like, I know. She's like, I'm not putting up a Clerks poster. I was like, I'm not saying you have to. I was just saying, like, it's right there.
Did you want her to?
No. I got enough like fans in the world. I don't need my kid to be a fan of my work.
By the way, she ended up in a Tarantino movie
She did.
years later.
And
Once
a
Upon
Kevin
Time
Smith
in Hollywood.
movie.
Yeah, and
Tarantino movie, Kevin Smith movie.
Incredible.
But she don't need to be a fan of my work. I hope she's a fan of me. That's the more important thing. She likes me personally, and that much I know. She does like me as a person.
But back to what I was saying about soundtrack, songs are so interesting in how they introduce a tone. When we meet Jay and Silent Bob for the first time, it's "Kill the Sex Player."
Yeah.
And so, but that song, even in the beginning, as we're going through the opening credits of Clerks, and we're like, when we're making sure this Clerks, "Love Among Freaks" is the name of the song. That is, it's edited so well.
Love Among Freaks is the band. That was Scott Angley, who I went to high school with.
It's so
Scott
great.
was like the guitar genius. What do they call that? When somebody is a prodigy.
Yeah.
He was like fucking amazing playing guitar. So when I finished Clerks, I reached out to Scott. He was like a year above me in school. But I was like, hey man, like, will you like compose a score for the movie? And so it just had some like guitar stings and shit, but he did the opening song, him and the band. His band was Love Among Freaks, and they did the song, which they called Clerks. Then they did a song at the end of the movie, which was only on the VHS cut of the movie before Miramax picked up, and then it was replaced by the Soul Asylum song. But it allowed them, when we did the soundtrack, it allowed Love Among Freaks to re-record Chewbacca, because they had recorded like a scratch track version. Chewbacca, what a Wookiee. No, wait, that song came from
Was it
somebody else.
Berserker?
Berserker,
Yeah.
my bad. Berserker. That was the scratch track version of My Love for You is like a truck berserker. The Chewbacca song wasn't Love Among Freaks. That was a different group altogether.
My favorite part of that whole scene is the guy. He's like, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
Who
it's
says that?
beautiful,
Who is
man.
that? Who is saying that? Is that
There's Scott Mosier.
Yeah, Scott. Yeah, it's Scott who edited the
Will
film
Black.
with you.
Yeah.
I mean, your editing's amazing. But talk about, like, you look at that first time we meet Jay and Silent Bob, and that song, "Kill the Sex Player," is what we're introduced to them by. But it speaks to them perfectly. It's like a,
which is weird because once again,
it was given to you.
Yeah, that came from
Yeah.
here's a pile of music, pick what you like.
But I mean but in terms of cinematic history, that the first time they ever show up on film is with that song, and so
Which had no intent behind it.
So
you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it works well in the
Yeah.
movie, thank Christ. But when I wrote that scene, I was not like, kill the sex player rings in the background. You know what I'm saying? Now, later in life, I would start writing song titles into the movies and shit.
like which ones?
Like when I was writing Clerks III, I knew the whole opening was going to be built around "Welcome to the Black Parade" by My Chemical Romance,
Which is one of the greatest songs ever written.
like absolutely anthemic, one of the greatest songs ever written. And thankfully, My Chem is a local Jersey band, made good, and Gerard was a fan growing up. He's a comic book store kid. So he knew Clerks and shit like that. So I started my journey slightly before he started his. A few years after he started his journey after September 11th. That's when My Chem begins and stuff. So having that song, which again, I only knew because of my kid. So, as much as like I gave to the kid, she gave back, because that song is fucking, not only was it a gift to me as an individual, because it was probably a band I never would have heard of.
Yeah.
They were kind of younger than me and shit like that. But through the kid, I got to know him and fell deeply in love with him. And then that song opens the last version of Clerks that I'll ever fucking make. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Gerard was so sweet about it. I was like, can I use Black Parade? He goes, you could use whatever you want. He's going, but it's fitting. He's going because like I saw Clerks before I made that song, and years later, and you inspired me, and now you're using the song in the movies. Like it's all a perfect fucking circle and stuff. So it's ironic that song, "Kill the Sex Player," like kicks off Jay and Silent Bob, because it wasn't something I brought to the table going, this represents those guys.
But it ultimately
works.
sets their tone.
Works so well.
Yeah.
And it's just like grungy enough and just hard enough.
Yeah.
And it lends them like a street authenticity that you know, the black and white helps, but those two characters wouldn't have had were it not for like, you know, just
I mean, the way you use King Diamond in Clerks II.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like
that's because of Muse.
I
Muse
think
is
you're
the
underrated
massive
when it
King
comes to
Diamond
soundtracks. I don't know if people
Kev, I'll
focus
do you one better.
on this.
I think I'm underrated
in
across
general.
the boards. But that's okay. It's
That's
actually
something you do well.
It's been good for me in my career, I think, to not get rated.
Rated, yeah.
Yeah, like.
But you do have a really good soundtrack sense. I mean, I remember seeing Clerks II and going, I'm a metal guy.
Yeah.
And I like King Diamond.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'll never see King Diamond song in a Kevin Smith movie, but it was perfect.
That's all Jason. Jason is the massive King Diamond guy and always has been.
Are those on set when, like in that scene, obviously it's there, of course, but
Well, in that scene, we were singing it and stuff.
Yeah.
Like when we were like popped up in the drive-through window and Elias is like, don't talk about Satan and shit like that. But then later on, like, or earlier when Jay and Bob are revealed and we're playing Welcome Home. You know, we didn't play it on set. No need whatsoever. That's a guy who's been marching to the beat of his own drum since I first met him. Yeah. So you don't have to be like, let me put on some music to set the mood, or get you in the right frame of mind. He's got an internal soundtrack that's constantly turned up to 11.
I want to talk to you about what it feels like to watch an actor do a monologue that you've written.
Yeah.
And then you've had many of them in your career. Obviously, yourself, you've given, I mean, Chasing Amy, that's one of the best monologues ever when Silent Bob speaks.
Thank you.
But John Goodman's monologue in Red State.
One of my favorite things I ever written.
I bring this up constantly because I think it's one of my favorite monologues in cinema.
He crushes it, too.
Talk about the moment you wrote that and the moment you heard him say it.
Moment I wrote it, like Red State, I wrote over the course of 2 days in a fever pitch and stuff. And I kept
Is that normal?
feeding
2-3
pages.
days write a script?
If you're like in the zone and you know, it wasn't even a very long script. It was like 90 pages. But if you're, you know, I was feeding pages from that script to my friend Malcolm, who had done a documentary called Small Town Gay Bar, that in the documentary he interviewed Fred Phelps from the Westboro Baptist Church. And when I saw him in the documentary, I was like, you fucking sat down and talked to that guy? And he's only in the doc, you know, for a few minutes. Malcolm was like, yeah, for an hour. And I was like, oh my God, send me that interview, man. I want to watch it. And he sent me the interview. And I remember Jennifer, my wife, she was like, I'm not watching that. And I had to go upstairs and watch it like by myself and shit. And it was truly terrifying.
Yeah.
It's almost quaint now when you think about it because the world has gotten so much more horrible since Fred Phelps and the Westboro Baptist Church, owing nothing to them, really. But it was weird to just watch somebody so fucking prejudiced, so filled with hate, sell it like your grandpa, like, you know, in fucking dulcet tones and shit. I said, this shit's sinister.
Scary.
I called up Malcolm. I was like, Malcolm, you should do a horror movie about these cats. Like, turn them into like the Sawyer family from fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre, man. And he's like, that's stupid. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so I started writing it. And I kept feeding Malcolm the pages. And so he'd read them and be like, oh my God, this is good. Keep going and shit. And so over the course of about 2 days, I wrote Red State, including that monologue. And, well, no, hold on. I wrote Red State, and in the end, it had a very apocryphal ending with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So when we cut the ending, like in order to get Red State made, like we did a budget to do it with that scene at the end as written with the apocalypse and shit. It was going to be $15 million. We pull out that last scene, we can make it for $5 million. So I was like,
wow,
the way is clear. So when I took that ending out, I had to write something new. So it was one of the last things that I ever added to Red State.
There's a pattern here. You're writing your best monologues
at the end.
At the end.
Yeah, once I've had enough time to sit with it and some distance and shit, then I'm like, oh, this would. But that was, once again, the pattern is necessity is the mother of invention more than anything else. Like, oh my God, I need something here. But the Ben thing was like, we can't fit him anywhere else in the movie. What are we doing? We're at the Chronicon. So, oh shit, he created Blunt Man and Chronic, so he'll work there. So it all just kind of worked out. With this, I was like, well, I can't do the ending where the fucking 4 horsemen show up and fucking like all this shit proves out to be true. So I said, let me do it here. Like it fucking rises to this fever pitch. And then we wind up in this quiet space where these characters explain what happened and we didn't see it. The Coen brothers did it in Burn After Reading.
Yeah.
So like the movie ends like so bizarrely where it's just like somebody's telling you everything that happened off camera. And I took that. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like this movie is very, I always saw Red State as very like me trying to do Quentin by way of the Coen brothers, the Susan of Coen brothers. So I was like, there's Coen brothers in the DNA. Fucking do it. Take it. Like it worked for them. Yeah. Like see what happens. So in summing up what happened, I was like, all right, so it's going to be revealed that clearly those horns were not fucking Jesus. And it's going to be fucking this. So that closes up the movie. But since it was so, for lack of a better description, pithy, like such a pithy way to end it, we were fucking building. Like by the time Michael Parks is in John Goodman's face screaming about shoot me, it's fucking tense. You got the horns going. You're like, what the fuck? He's just shot 2 kids, the fucking FBI guy, or the ATF guy. So you're like, fucking what? What next? And then it just falls off a cliff, and there's a guy in a closed door hearing explaining what happened, explaining none of that was real. So I felt like you went here, and then you're going to do this. You got to give them a cushion at the bottom. They're about to fall off the cliff. And that may be entertaining for some, and it may solve your budget issue, but for a lot of fucking people, it's going to be like, what the fuck happened to the story? It just fucking stopped. So I was like, give them a pad to fall into, and the pad is Goodman's character, who was always going to survive, right? Even when it was the apocalyptic ending, he was holding his head and covering his head, and then he was the one that opened his eyes, and he would see like, the last 5-pointer, one of the people from that church, like on the sword of this gigantic fucking angel, and the angel like pulls the sword out and the body drops to the ground. The angel turns to John Goodman's character and goes, shh, and then just flies off. And when he watches it fly off, that's when he sees the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And then it was credits.
Wow.
So, at that point, I was like, you're not going to do that. You got to give him something. And having him kind of sum it all up with that like monologue about the 2 dogs fighting over the fucking bone and shit. What is his final line? He goes, some people are just, oh fuck, I forget. It's such a good line. But it really summed up what the entire movie was about.
Where'd that come from, the dogs with the bone? Just a metaphor, obviously, but like...
They came from my Aunt Connie. Like, so such a weird random memory of like, she had a couple dogs. My Aunt Connie and Uncle Mike, we went to their house once. She had a little poodle called Colette. And then there was another dog, like the dog that'd been around longer than Colette. And they threw down some fucking like, fucking turkey bones. And the 2 were like, and these were 2 of the calmest dogs you ever met. But they suddenly went at each other.
They become animalistic.
Yeah.
No longer domesticated.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So what was it? He goes, some people are so entitled. Some people act something when they believe they're entitled. That's it. He's going, people do the craziest shit when they believe they're entitled. He's going, but they do even crazier shit when they just plain believe. And I was like, what a banger. Like, that's so smart. Like, that's way smarter than anything I ever said. I was like, that's a great way to fucking end it. So that's where that monologue came from. And boy, did he fucking nail it. Yeah. And he once said, like I saw in an interview years later, they were like, hey man, you're working a lot. I think it was after Argo. They're like, you're on fire. And he said, all I know is Kevin Smith put me in Red State, and I have not stopped working since. And he thanked me. I remember when we were doing that, not just that monologue, but his first scene. He's going, nobody ever lets me do shit like this. Because he was America's dad. He was Dan Connor. And I loved him as Dan Connor. I loved him in all the Coen Brothers movies. But he wasn't, the fucking FBI, the amoral FBI guy or ATF guy who's making a hard decision and shit like that. And he was brilliant. He's like one of the greatest actors I ever worked with and shit. And like so many wonderful actors that I got to work with, I don't know if I'll ever like get another chance to work with them. Like, Rickman was only that one time. And he was almost in like the Clerks cartoon at playing Leonardo. That's
You
why
got
the
him for
character
a good
looks
role,
that way.
though. You got him.
No complaints.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we lost him. So, you know, no opportunities in the future. And he was almost in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but he was shooting Think Harry Potter at the same time, so we couldn't get him. So, like, Goody's one of those people as well, where it's just like, oh, I only worked with him that one time. And I'm always hoping that I have something one day where I'm like, that would be fucking perfect for John and bring him back. You know, some people I write for repeatedly, like Jason, Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, Ben back in the day and stuff. But some cats, like, you know, you don't like Parks. Like, it took me 15 years to find a use for Parks. Not like he wasn't useful, but in the shit I do, was he gonna play Silent Bob's grandpa? Like, no. But when I was like, ooh, Red State, I know who I'm writing this for. I wrote it for Parks because I'd seen him 15 years prior and From Dusk Till Dawn. I remember sitting there going like, that guy's not acting.
No.
Like, that's not an actor.
him.
That's a real policeman.
Yeah.
Like, it is so fucking convincing. And Quentin and Robert both introduced me to like the performer who I never saw coming in my future, but like having worked with them twice in two, what I feel like are Kevin Smith defining films. And it's unfathomable to think that there was a time that I didn't know who Michael Parks was.
Yeah.
My mom did. Like when she came to Red State set, she was talking to him between takes, and then when he was off doing something, she goes, "Is that Bronson?" And I was like, "What do you mean, Ma?" And she was going, "He was Motorcycle Man." And I said, "Yeah, he was on a show called Then Came Bronson. It was on one season. You fucked with that show?" She's like, "I like that show." So she sat there like talking up Parks that night.
Did she come to all your sets?
A lot of them. She didn't like Clerks. She came to because she was in the movie and shit. I woke her up in the wee hours in the morning because somebody we cast to like be the milkmaid didn't show up at 3 a.m. So I called Mom. I was like, "Mom, can you come down here? We're shooting this scene." She was like, "Oh my God!" And she put on her fucking jogging suit, and she never jogged, and came down and shot that scene. Mallrats. We were in Minnesota, so she wasn't there for that. Chasing Amy. We shot locally, and I'm trying to think if she ever rolled by for that. You know, you got to remember, I mean, this is going to sound so pedestrian and middle class, but, you know, I didn't want my parents hanging around my set. Like, I wanted to be me.
Yeah,
And
I
I
get
was my
that.
parents' son, and here I was with film finally defining who I was. I wasn't Grace and Don's son. I was like Kevin Smith, the filmmaker. So, you know, when they were around, it was like, "Ma," you know, that kind of thing. Not embarrass them, but just like, I also didn't want them to like see me cursing and shit like that. Dogma, they came to visit, but they weren't like in the movie, but they came and visited and were there when we were shooting the outside stuff. Like my dad got to hang out with George Carlin, which was everything because he introduced me to George Carlin's work. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, they were on the set. It's one of my favorite stories of all time. We were doing the blunt saber fight in the blunt cave. And it's me and Mark Hamill as Cockknocker.
His greatest performance.
You know,
It might be his greatest performance.
Luke aside, come on.
It's pretty good, man.
So we're doing the scene and we're on him first. So we're over my stunt double's shoulder. So I'm behind the monitor directing. Then it's time for me to be on camera as Silent Bob, and we're over the stunt Mark's shoulder, over his shoulder shooting onto me, so it looks like I'm fighting Mark. So Mark is free from the scene, and he's hanging at Video Village with my parents. And Mark is like such a class act, and he knows how to host and shit like that. So he was just fucking blowing him up, and like, "Oh my God, you must be so proud," blah, blah, blah. And so he said to my mom, he goes, "Look at all this." He's gone, "This must be so wild for you to see. Like growing up knowing Kevin, this must be crazy for you." And my mom goes, "Oh, I don't know. He's not much different. When he was a kid, he played with your action figure. And now he just plays with you." Really,
Okay, that's like the greatest line
really
ever.
quite fucking charming. So yeah, they got to go to a bunch of the sets. You know, she'd be in stuff. Like I brought her back for Clerks II. She's in the last shot when we pull back and it slowly goes to black and white. There's Mom putting the milk, checking the milks. And she was meant to do it in Clerks III, but it was COVID. And she didn't leave Florida. She couldn't travel because she was like old. So Harley stood in for her and played the milk maiden. And instead of milk, she was moving like oat milk. So we felt like it was a generational growth thing there. But then Mom wound up in the movie because I was able to do a pickup with her for the audition scene when we had people auditioning for their movie Inconvenience. Mom was one of them, and that was the last thing. And she was not there. She was there while we shot 4:30 movie, I think, or she wasn't. But she wasn't in the movie, but she's a character in the movie. Rachel Dratch played my mom in 4:30 movie, and Mom got to see it. Mom passed away in December, like 10 days shy of her 80th birthday. Which
So sorry, man.
So fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But we were lucky to have her as long as we did. She was always kind of in poor health for the last 20 years, and she almost died a number of times. Called her Amazing Grace. But she saw that Rachel Dratch scene, and she was just like, "You're still telling that story, Tiger," because her reading the fucking thank you note in the scene, like her character, that's literally something like my mom did when I was a kid that always like stuck with me and shit. So yeah, they got to visit, the both of them. Dad died 23 years ago now. So he only made it as far as like Strike Back. He saw Jersey Girl. They weren't on set for that, but they did at one point. They were there, but not in the movie. But they came to visit because my cousin Ann was in the movie. But he got to see the flick before he passed away, and then she made it for another like 23 years without him, and loved my career. She was like, the movies she was fine with, but she loved seeing me like stand up and talk.
Yeah.
Oh, she fucking loved Kevin Smith Q&As and stuff, and she loved being Kevin Smith's mother. People would come over and be like, "Oh my God, you're his mom," and shit. She ate that shit up like candy. I thank everybody who ever went to an event where my mom was and blew her up, man. Like, you don't know what rare breathing and eating that is for a parent to have, like, the world be like, "You done good, man. Your kid's a good kid." Like most people hear about their kids and they're like, "Your fucking kid's a fuck up. What a piece of shit." But to have people be like, "I'm so glad that you fucked because like your son's work means the world to me." She carried that shit, man, like a badge of honor.
And she saw so much of it.
She did. She got to be involved with so much of it.
Decades.
And I always kept her involved and always like brought her out. And she was in my socials like at all times. I'd always like put her up in videos and stuff like that. So yeah, it was weird. We were talking right before we went. The last, we just passed the 3-month mark at the beginning of March. And it's been like, it's weird when you're spoiled when you have things one way for so long. I know how to live in a world 55 years with my mother in it. Figuring out how to do it in a world that she doesn't live is weird. Every day is a school day, but I didn't expect to learn shit like this so late in life, although I guess I should have. It's inevitable. And I had rehearsal in as much as like I lost my dad 23 years ago, but yeah, it's fucking weird being an orphan, man. Like, I'm as close to Batman as I'll ever get at this point. They didn't die in Crime Alley, but they're dead.
One of the things that I was saying to you before we started was your mom gets to live on in cinema.
Yeah.
And
very true.
I bring this up at the end of every interview I do. You've seen the movie Babylon with Damien Chazelle directed.
I did.
Brad Pitt.
I did.
Do you remember the scene?
I watched it at my own movie at Smodcastle Cinemas.
It's a great film. But do you remember the scene with him and Jean Smart at the end? So basically, Jean Smart is like a journalist. She writes this article about like the movies going from the silent era to the talkies, and Brad Pitt's character is basically being like phased out.
Right.
And he's like, and she writes this article about like the end of his career in a way. And he goes to see her, and in that scene, Jean Smart says something to him to the effect of like, in 100 years, someone's gonna turn on your work, and you're gonna flicker back to life. Like what was the line? Like, yeah, you'll breathe your last breath before they breathe their first, or something like that. Just like
good line,
brutal line, but actually insane. And I think about all the people we were just talking about just now: Alan Rickman, George Carlin. They all come back to life when I turn on your movies. Yeah. Your mom
or better movies.
Yeah, but your mom,
like Die Hard. You turn on Die Hard, Rickman's back.
Yeah, but Rickman's back in Dogma, man.
Yeah, he's wonderful in Dogma.
But I wondered, what does that mean to you to know that? Do you feel that cinema is an immortalizing tool of that way? Like, I'll watch a Buster Keaton movie right now, and that dude's alive on my screen.
It was. I'm going to quote the person you'd least expect me to quote at this particular juncture as I'm speaking about the immortality of cinema. Jay Leno. So for years after Strike Back, I did segments for The Tonight Show called Roadside Attractions, where it was after September 11th, the people couldn't fly. So we were like, these are the things you can see when you're driving cross country. So we did a bunch of them, man, a series of them. So I was on The Tonight Show quite a bit. And before, the show starts, Jay would bomb around to all the dressing rooms, say hi, sit down. He was wearing his, fucking Canadian tuxedo because he was always in denim jeans and a denim shirt and shit. And he bullshit with everybody and then get dressed and go do the fucking show. So he came in one day, and I think it was like the second or third time that I was there because we shot these pieces, me and my friend Andy McElfish, who worked on the show. And then I would come on the show in the first 15 and introduce the pieces and stuff like that. So that's why I was there. So he came in, it was about the second or third, maybe fourth time max that I'd been there. And I would go on to do this like a dozen times or more. He goes, what are you working on? And I was like, I was telling him whatever movie it was. And he goes, I think it was probably Jersey. He goes, man, he's going, that's so amazing. It's just incredible what you guys do. And I'm like, Jay, you guys literally make a fucking show every day. It's 90 minutes long and there's funny shit all over it and whatnot. He goes, yeah, but that's disposable. He's going, we do it and nobody thinks about it the next day. He's going, nobody puts up old episodes of The Tonight Show to watch at fucking 3 a.m. and shit like that. He's going, they pull it off of iTunes or something like that.
Damn.
He's going, but a movie? He's going, those are special. He's going, everybody puts all that work into them, and then for the rest of your life and long after you're gone, people are going to know you. He's going, no one's going to remember The Tonight Show, my version of The Tonight Show after I leave. He's going, but no one's ever going to forget like the movies that you've made. Don't you see the difference? And I never did, because to me it was all just like transactional entertainment.
Wow.
But that guy, I think, probably had the best perspective of what I do for a living versus all the other media and shit, or the medium that he was in, that I've ever heard somebody kind of put into words. I was like, oh, all right. Like, and I've always been kind of self-deprecating and shit, but I'll be honest with you, that like, that made me feel a little chuffed. I was like, oh shit. Like, cause if a guy who was like, say what you will about fucking Leno, and some people didn't like him and whatnot, but for a guy who was as important to the culture as he was, to feel like, no, movies, dude, that's what you're doing, that's important to the culture, was really eye-opening. And they live, you're right, man, they live long after us and shit like that. And, we get a moment to tread upon the stage, so to speak. But because the films, and we hope it stays that way, because media consumption is different than it was, in the last fucking 100 years. But in that way, yeah, man, it means that when I'm long fucking done with all this and all this is long done with me, they can bring me back. It's like Coco. You know what I'm saying? Like, fucking remember me, bitch. As long as there's somebody who fucking pops in that movie, I don't have to fully die.
Yeah. But it's kind of surreal. Like I'm turning on Clerks last night, and it's this thing you did 30-something years ago, and it's a
32.
moment. Yeah, 32. It's a moment.
33 technically when
It's
we
a
shot
moment
it.
in time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm watching Randall like do his famous walk into the store, and I'm like, wow. Like that was filmed 32 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's that character back to life on my screen.
That's what I feel like
kinda
when
beautiful,
when I
man.
first moved out here, like for good, because I fucked with Los Angeles like from when I started, like after Mallrats Joey and I started dating. So from like 95 forward, like I was out here more regularly and stuff. And then I moved out here for good in 2002. But when I moved out here for good in 2002, one of the first things I did was go looking for the baseball diamond where they shot the Bad News Bears. And I took my kid, and she was like 2 or 3 at the time, oblivious as hell. But found it. It's over, in the Deep Valley and shit, and North Valley. And, fucking walked you know, some of it's changed, of course, doesn't look the exact same, but it is the same field because you could tell by the landmarks around it and shit. And like I just sat there and was like, something fucking magical happened here so many fucking years ago. And to the people doing it, it was just another job. And to the people in the town, it was probably a nuisance or an interest from time to time. And to all the kids who worked in it, you know, it was probably unforgettable. But the impact that that film had, like on, I don't know how many different lives, but at least my own, speaking personally. It's a movie that taught me how to lose gracefully, and I've done a lot of losing in life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you will lose in life. I don't care how big a champion you are. Nobody wins forever and shit, and nobody wins always. And movies tend to teach you how to succeed because they show you success stories and show you like the happily ever after of it. But there was a movie that even at age fucking 6, I could recognize imparted something far more useful, which is like, it's okay to fucking lose, just have fun. And I've lived my life by that mantra forever. So going to see that field and acknowledging that like magic, true fucking alchemy happened here once. And twice if you count the sequels, and 3 times if you count all the sequels, and 4 if you count the TV show probably. But they make a difference, man. Like, you know, I've been part of it for 32 years, and I dismiss it very easily and very casually, like, oh, it's just making movies. But fuck, it's the what was that one? I forget what movie they said it. We make entertainment the most important, least important thing in the world, and it's true. It is the most important, least important thing in the world. Yeah.
And just the amount of lives that you change. All right, we got to wrap up, but I wish we could go longer because I love this conversation. But thank you for coming in studio.
I'm glad we have a fucking productive show to show for it.
And honestly, I'm really glad. And thank you for coming back for the second take.
No worries. And wait, did I see you win an award recently?
I won a press award.
What's that about?
It was
Let's end on you. What the fuck?
63rd annual.
Did you know you were winning it?
No, I did not. I went, dude. You know who gave it to me? It was Paul Feig. Yeah, it was like the most surreal thing ever. It was the International Cinematographers Guild. They have a local IATSE 600 where the publicists are part of this union. So they do the Publicists Awards every year where they give out awards for like marketing campaigns that movie studios did, and they give a press award. And I got an email one day, and he's like, you're nominated for this award. I'm like, can you come to the show? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. And then freaking Jimmy Kimmel goes up, wins some award called the Director's Award, kills on stage. And I looked at my wife and I was like, I feel bad for anybody who has to follow that. And then Paul Feig comes out to announce the press award, and then I won it. And I'm like, dude, it's fucking Tim from Heavyweights giving me the award. So it was
That's pretty fucking awesome.
How'd
that like play at home?
I mean, my mom and dad were blown away. I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
They were already worried about me moving out to LA and leaving my full-time job to start this show.
How long you been out here now? 2 years?
Since June. No, not even.
Not even.
No.
So year 1, you get an award.
Yeah. And I had Kevin Smith on my podcast twice.
Yeah. It's going to make every year after that so much harder.
Yeah.
Where you're like, where's my award, man?
Yeah.
You deserve it. I'm so happy. I saw that and I was like, fucking good for him. It's nice when the good guys win, and you're a good guy.
Thank you, Kev. Love you, man.
Love you. Thanks for having me.